Charades. Charades, UK, /ʃə́ṛdz/ US, /reads/ is a parlor or party word guessing game. Originally, the game was a dramatic form of literary charades. A single person would act out each syllable of a word or phrase in order, followed by the whole phrase together, while the rest of the group guessed. A variant was to have teams who acted scenes out together while the others guessed. Today, it is common to require the actors to mime their hints without using any spoken words, which requires some conventional gestures. Puns and visual puns were and remain common. History. Literary charades. A charade was a form of literary riddle popularized in France in the 18th century where each syllable of the answer was described enigmatically as a separate word before the word as a whole was similarly described. The term charade was borrowed into English from French in the second half of the 18th century, denoting a kind of riddle in which each syllable of a word, or a complete word or phrase, is enigmatically described or dramatically represented. Written forms of charade appeared in magazines, books, and on the folding fans of the Regency. The answers were sometimes printed on the reverse of the fan, suggesting that they were a flirting device, used by a young woman to tease her beau. One charade composed by Jane Austen goes as follows. The answer is hemlock. William Mackworth Praed's poetic charades became famous. Later examples omitted direct references to individual syllables, such as the following, said to be a favorite of Theodore Roosevelt. In the early 20th century, the 11th edition of the Encyclopaedia Britannica offered these two prose charades as perhaps as good as could be selected. And with the answers being Tartar and Conundrum. Acted charades. In the early 19th century, the French began performing acting or acted charades with the written description replaced by dramatic performances as a parlor game, and this was brought over to Britain by the English aristocracy. Thus the term gradually became more popularly used to refer to acted charades, examples of which are described in William Thackeray's Vanity Fair and in Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre. Thackeray snarked that charades were enjoyed for enabling the many ladies amongst us who had beauty to display their charms, and the fewer number who had cleverness, to exhibit their wit. In his Vanity Fair, the height of Rebecca Sharp's social success is brought on by her performances of acting charades before the Prince Regent. The first scene, first two syllables, displays a Turkish lord dealing with a slaver and his odalisque before being garroted by the Sultan's chief black eunuch. The second, last two syllables finds a Turk, his consort, and his black slave praying at sunrise when an enormous Egyptian head enters and begins singing. The answer, Agamemnon, is then acted out by Becky's husband, while she makes her, first, appearance as Clytemnestra. After refreshments, another round begins, partially in pantomime. The first scene shows a household yawningly finishing a game of cribbage and preparing for bed. The second opens on the household bustling with activity as daybreak prompts, bells ringing, arguments over receipts, collection of the chamber pots, calls for carriages, and greetings to new guests. The third closes with a ship's crew and passengers tossed about by a storm with strong winds. The answer, Nightingale, is then, somewhat mistakenly, acted out by Becky in the role of a singing French marquise, recalling both Lacosse's 1705 tragic opera Philomele and an arrivist lover and wife of Louis XIV. Apart from its importance in the book, the scenes were subsequently considered models of the genre. By the time of the First World War, acting charades had become the most popular form and, as written charades were forgotten, it adopted its present, terser name. Thackeray's scenes, even those said to be in pantomime, included dialogue from the actors, but truly dumb or mime charades gradually became more popular as well and similarly dropped their descriptive adjectives. The amateurish acting involved in charades led to the words used to describe any obvious or inept deception, but over time a charade became used more broadly for any put-on, even highly competent and successful ones, and its original association with the parlor game has largely been lost. The acted form of charades has been repeatedly made into television game shows, including the American Play the Game, Movietown, RSVP, Pantomime Quiz, Stump the Stars, Celebrity Charades, Show-Offs and Body Language, the British Give Us a Clue, the Canadian Party Game and Acting Crazy, and the Australian Celebrity Game. On Britain's BBC Radio 4, I'm Sorry I Haven't a Clue performs a variant of the old written and spoken form of the game as sound charades. Rules. As a long-lived and informal game, charades rules can vary widely. Common features of the game include holding up a number of fingers to indicate the number of syllables in the answer, silently replying to questions, and making a come on gesture once the guesses become close. Some forms of the games, however, forbid anything except physically acting out the answer. In a mixed setting, it is therefore advisable to clarify the rules before play begins. Common features of the modern game include: an alternative set of rules can be found at http://bearlabad.com/ʃə଼rɑːdz.htm. Common signals. Note that some of these signs may be banned from some forms of the game.